The story begins on the planet Yautja Prime, in the home of the deadly Yautja hunters who are pursued by none, yet all living things fall prey to them. High above the planet, a spacecraft circles the surface before abruptly aborting its course. Down below, a warrior named Kwei roams through the wild terrain, searching for his missing brother Dek. Kwei eventually finds Dek concealed beneath a cloaking field. As he tries to approach, Dek suddenly launches an ambush, forcing the brothers into a brutal confrontation. Determined to prove his strength, Dek attacks ferociously, but Kwei easily parries his strikes and knocks him into a deep trench, ending the skirmish. When Dek returns from the fall, he insists that he's ready to earn the title of a true Yautja. But Kwei, unimpressed, tells him he still lacks discipline and walks away. Later, aboard their ship, Dek discovers a toy left for him by Kwei, a symbolic gift representing his own ship. Kwei explains that to be accepted into a clan, a Yautja must hunt worthy prey and bring the trophy home, or die trying. While Dek searches for his quarry, Kwei detects a planet called Jenna, known as the Death World, the domain of the unkillable beast Kaliska. Dek declares he'll slay Kaliska to prove his worth to their father, who sees him as weak. Kwei warns him that such a hunt means certain death, but Dek refuses to back down. Before they can depart, their father's ship descends from the skies. He confronts Kwei, demanding to know why Dek still lives. Calling Dek a disgrace to their bloodline, he orders Kwei to execute him. Their father traps Dek using one of his advanced devices. Yet, instead of following the command, Kwei destroys the device and locks Dek inside ship, sending him away to safety. Kwei then turns on his father, challenging him. But the older Yautja wields mystical abilities, turning invisible and overpowering Kwei in battle. From within the ship, Dek watches helplessly as his father kills Kwei, though the father collapses soon after. Before his final breath, Kwei activates the ship remotely, launching it toward Jenna. As the craft lifts off, Dek sees his brother die before his eyes and hears his last words echo in his mind. Bring it home. During the journey, meteor-like stones collide with the vessel, shaking it violently and waking Dek from stasis. The ship enters Jenna's turbulent atmosphere, but is immediately attacked by a monstrous creature, sending it crashing into a dense jungle. Fueled by anger and grief, Dek swears to honor Kwei's memory and complete the hunt. He checks his gear for the mission, but soon notices that the surrounding trees seem to move. Suddenly, the roots lash out, forcing him to slash his way free and flee the ambush. Ahead lies the treacherous expanse of Jenna, every step promising danger. After tending his wounds with broad leaves, Dek presses onward, finding carcasses of creatures littered across the ground. Even the flora here hungers for blood. Eventually, he spots a girl entangled in vines, Thaya, just as a rock comes flying from the shadows, stirring the plants into a frenzy. Thaya pleads for help, promising she can assist him, but Dek growls. Yautja hunts alone, before charging through the attack. A poisonous plant strikes him, leaving him dizzy. Thaya cries out again, and Dek hurls a device toward her before collapsing. As a creature moves in to devour him, Thaya springs into action, slaying the beast and saving his life before he passes out. When Dek regains consciousness, he questions her. Thaya explains that she was engineered and deployed by Weyland-Yutani Research for survival experiments. Humans, she says, could not withstand this world brutality. She reveals that many Yautja have fallen to Kaliska before him, and she's seen the beast herself. She offers to guide Dek to its lair if he promises to take her along. Dek soon discovers his navigation system is wrecked. Thaya claims she can serve as his guide and survival partner, given her knowledge of Jenna's terrain. Dek reluctantly agrees. As they trek through the hostile jungle, Thaya chatters endlessly, but Dek remains silent. Crossing a narrow stream, she mentions she has spent years studying predatory organisms and understands how they think. To avoid losing her, Dek ties a rope between them. When a storm brews, they set up camp. Dek asks how long she's been stranded. Thaya replies it's been 2 years since her team established a base, and she still clings to hope that her friend Tessa will return. She recalls how, during an expedition, a Kaliska attack separated them. Despite the chaos, Thaya believes Tessa is still alive. Elsewhere, Tessa indeed survives but returns injured to her base. Her superiors reassign her to capture the X-0522 specimen and secure biological weapons, warning her about Yautja presence. Upon waking, she learns Thaya is traveling with one. Back on Jenna, Dek, now starving, attempts to hunt but cuts himself on razor-sharp grass. Suddenly, a small alien creature emerges, scurrying between beasts. Dek pursues it through the trees, leaping between branches, but slips and nearly impales himself on the grass below. Later, when he catches up to the creature, they brawl, until the creature signals danger. A massive predator bursts forth. Dek hurls his weapon, slicing the beast cleanly in half. Moments later, a monobug swoops in, ensnaring both Dek and the small creature. The creature helps Dek break free, but gets recaptured. Dek dives after it, battling the bug in the trees, and finally kills it in a savage fight. Meanwhile, Tessa and her team scour the wilderness for signs of Thaya, following traces of Yautja blood and incinerating any predatory roots they find. That night, Dek, Thaya, and the small creature sit around a campfire. Thaya muses that the three of them make a good team. Dek smirks, saying his favorite part was slicing off the creature's head earlier. Showing rare warmth, Dek shares his food with the little creature, thanking it for saving his life. He tells Thaya he once had a brother, but their father killed him for being too weak. He admits he came to Jenna to hunt Kaliska. When he asks about her purpose, Thaya answers softly, she's searching for Tessa. Later on, Tessa locates Dek's deserted spacecraft and uncovers his weapons and equipment. The following day, Dek prepares to depart, but Thaya insists they cannot abandon the small creature she has named Bud. Dek argues that a Yautja always hunts alone and takes Thaya with him, leaving Bud behind. As they approach a waterfall, Dek discovers one of Kaliska's fangs. Feeling uneasy about leaving Bud, Thaya asks why his father killed his brother. Dek explains that his brother died defending him because he was seen as the clan's weakness, and now he seeks to prove his worth. Thaya tells a tale about wolves on Earth, describing how an alpha protects the pack rather than eliminating the weak. Dek counters that he will be the alpha who kills the most. They continue across Jenna's harsh terrain until they reach Kaliska's lair, where numerous corpses are scattered. Thaya concludes that Kaliska destroyed their mission and discovers her detached mechanical legs nearby. After reattaching them, she thanks Dek for his help. Dek declares that today he will become a Yautja and capture Kaliska. Thaya warns him to leave, revealing that she called her team and they are on their way. She confesses their true objective was to capture Kaliska. Dek becomes enraged, realizing they intend to steal his prey. He demands to know Kaliska's location and vows that no one will stand in his way. Soon after, Dek finds fuel and ignites the base. Inside, Thaya senses Kaliska's approach. A brutal fight breaks out between Dek and Kaliska. Dek uses his speed to wound the creature, but Kaliska regenerates and overpowers him, shattering Thaya's legs in the process. Though injured, Dek continues to fight. Thaya joins in with her firearm. Dek climbs Kaliska's tail, leaps onto its head, and decapitates it. Yet Kaliska regenerates once more and strikes back. At that moment, Tessa appears and throws a device that freezes both Dek and Kaliska, capturing them within her facility. Dek is imprisoned by Tessa, who he realizes is not Thaya. The real Thaya is under Tessa's control. Tessa scans Dek's mind to uncover his purpose but finds nothing. She then tells him he will now serve them, which infuriates him. Tessa revives Thaya, who is delighted to see her sister again. Tessa remarks that their mother will be pleased they've captured both Kaliska and Dek. Dek believes Thaya has betrayed him. Tessa injects Dek with a chemical while Thaya protests, insisting the Yautja are not suitable for experimentation. Tessa ignores her and continues to tamper with Dek's brain. Thaya shuts down the machine and pleads that this was not their mission. Tessa replies that their mother gave them emotions only to manipulate and study other beings. Thaya insists Dek is different, but Tessa says she only came for Kaliska and won't repeat her past mistakes. She orders her men to lock Thaya away. One of the soldiers instructs Thaya to open Dek's device, but it explodes, allowing her to flee. She yells for Dek to run as he plunges into the water below. Meanwhile, Thaya and Tessa return to their main base. Dek reaches his ship, tends to his wounds, and grows furious over his weakness and betrayal. Suddenly, the craft powers up, and he discovers his brother's armor, marked with the symbol of the wolf. Inspired, he forges new weapons using natural materials. Following trails of Kaliska's and Bud's blood, Dek prepares for battle. At the base, Thaya is imprisoned in a containment chamber. Dek remotely reactivates her mechanical legs, which distract the guards. Dek infiltrates the base, eliminating soldiers silently while Bud assists. Meanwhile, Tessa prepares Kaliska for experimentation, falsely reporting that Dek is dead. Dek continues his stealth attack, killing everyone in his path. Thaya's detached legs free her, but accidentally alert nearby troops. Dek finishes them off, and Thaya joins the fight alongside her reactivated limbs. Tessa begins her experiment on Kaliska when Dek arrives to save Thaya. She is touched that he returned for her. Bud then reveals that Kaliska is his mother, and Thaya urges Dek to release her. With 20 minutes remaining before launch, guards search for Dek. He ambushes them, eliminating the group with his newly crafted weapons. Tessa appears piloting a large combat machine and unleashes powerful attacks on Dek. Meanwhile, Thaya attempts to access the control system using Tessa's biometrics, but is confronted by one of her men. Pretending to be Tessa, she deceives and kills him. Dek hides and observes as Tessa searches for him. He suddenly ambushes her from above, clinging to the machine. At the same time, Kaliska breaks free and attacks Tessa, damaging the system. Tessa throws a freezing device at Kaliska, but Dek shields her, and Kaliska destroys the machine, killing Tessa before reuniting with Bud. Dek approaches Kaliska, gently touching her as a gesture of gratitude for protecting her offspring. But as Tessa, near death, activates one last freeze bomb, Kaliska is destroyed. The explosion knocks everyone back. Bud watches his mother perish while Tessa targets Thaya with a laser. Dek strikes from behind, killing Tessa, and Bud avenges his mother by tearing off Tessa's head. Dek embraces Bud, and together they return to Yautja Prime. Once there, Dek tells his father he has come for his honor and presents Kaliska's head. His father commands the guards to kill him, but Dek slaughters them effortlessly. A final duel unfolds between father and son. Using invisibility, his father attacks, but Dek stirs up dust from the ship's engines, revealing him. Dek delivers the killing blow. As his father lies dying, he acknowledges Dek as the rightful leader of the clan. Dek responds, "I have my own clan," as Bud devours his father. Thaya and Bud stand beside Dek as he retrieves his father's cloak, now a true Yautja. Suddenly, a ship descends from above. It is his mother's. The movie then came to an end. Kindly subscribe for more movie recap like this. Thanks for watching and goodbye.